Whew. Should I use this or no? Let's just use this. Oh man, can't wait for this Tennessee-Bama game. Yo, Matt, what are you doing? I'm lighting a stogie. What does it look like I'm doing? What do you mean you're lighting a stogie? It's Thursday. They ain't even played the game. As a matter of fact, it's not even close to kickoff. Well, hey, yeah, that is true. That is a fair point. But hey, it's good to be confident in your team, right? Hey, man, I'm just asking a question. You do you, brother. I don't even understand why you'd be so confident in lighting a stogie in the first place. Tennessee is the 6th ranked team in the country. You know that, right? So are you trying to tell me that you think Tennessee's gonna win? Well, look, man, you should be confident. Alabama's been one of the best programs the past 15 years. I get it 100%, but what if Bryce Young can't play? You know what? Hold on. I wasn't gonna address this, but I got time today. I'm not gonna sit there. It's wet, it's raining. Let me get this chair. Gosh, man, can't believe I'm having to address this, but it is what it is. We all saw what happened last week. Alabama looked 10 times worse when he's not in the game. That's got to concern you just the slightest a bit, right? Well, I guess according to people like you, Tennessee fans, SEC fans, people around all of college football, we shouldn't even make the trip up to Knoxville the way y'all are talking. It's going to be an easy win for Tennessee. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm not saying that Tennessee is going to beat y'all, but have you heard the word on the street? Nobody's picking Alabama to win this game. All I've seen everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, social media, the analysts, is everybody saying, yep, this is Tennessee's year. Alabama's beat them 15 times in a row. They don't have their starting quarterback. Even if Bryce Young can go, he's not going to be healthy. It's Tennessee's year. And you know what I like to call that? Rat poison. But this time, it's good rat poison. I like this rat poison, and you know who's eating it up? Nick Saban in Alabama. On a serious note, though, how do you think this is going to play out? All right. I'll tell you this much. Do I think we have a better chance if Bryce Young plays? Well, duh, of course. Everybody thinks that. So if Bryce Young can't go, yes, it will be a tougher game, but I also have an unwritten rule. There's 4 people in sports you can't count out and you can't bet against under any circumstance. LeBron James, Tom Brady, Tiger Woods, and Nick Saban. You'd be an absolute fool to bet against those 4 guys I just listed. All right, that's enough. This conversation's over. At Alabama, at least, I can't speak for the rest of these schools, but at Alabama, we don't like to do all this chitter chatter and talk before the game. We let our game do the talking for us. Now, as far as where it goes on how I think this game will ultimately come out, well, you're gonna have to stick it out to the end of this video. This is the Week 7 preview. Let's get into it. That guy's crazy, man. He really thinks Alabama's going to beat Tennessee. Bill O'Brien and Jalen Milroe beating Tennessee on their home field in Neyland Stadium. Yeah, I got to see it for myself. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Week 7 preview. Before we jump into things, I gotta ask you a serious question. Is this going to be the best weekend in college football this entire year? I think it might be. As I was getting ready for this video, doing the usual and normal, watching some film, looking at the head-to-head matchups, I noticed one thing. We got 2 top 10 matchups and 6 top 25 matchups. Think about that. 6 top 25 matchups on one Saturday? Come on, man. It doesn't get any better than this. We all know the biggest game of the week, without a doubt. Everybody's circling this one and ready for it, is Alabama and Tennessee. That's a given. And I also think there's a lot of people anticipating this Michigan and Penn State game, but here's something I didn't even know. Mississippi State and Kentucky are playing as well. And also, I didn't even know this top 15 matchup was happening. We got Oklahoma State, who's undefeated, and TCU, who's undefeated. I know. You guys are sitting there saying, yo, Matt, you keep up with this stuff. Shouldn't you know it? To be quite honest with all of you, I just think all these other games are getting overshadowed by Michigan, Penn State, and Alabama and Tennessee. I'm so excited to get into this preview video. We're not doing an intro. We already did that, so let's just get into preview number 1. I said preview number 1. I meant game number 1. You get what I'm trying to say. Kicking it off at 11 a.m. Central Time, we got Michigan and Penn State. Oh man, I think a lot of Michigan fans, they have a false perception on how I view them. Although I've said this forever and ever and it's not going to change, Michigan, yes, they are overrated, but it doesn't mean I'm saying they're a bad football team. I think they're a good football team. When I say they're quote-unquote overrated, that's just because it's simple. I think other people are rating them way too high. Anyways, I'm not here to talk about how overrated the Big Ten is. We got to focus on this matchup. Currently, as to where it stands, Michigan is right at a touchdown favorite, 7 points. Which, in my humble opinion, I'm eating all that up. Give me Michigan by 7 points, and I'll explain why. I've seen a lot of analysts try to overthink this and say, hey, if Sean Clifford's on his A game, Penn State, they can beat Michigan. Penn State also has that outstanding running back Singletary, who's a true freshman. That guy's a baller. But, and I have a big but, Michigan is just way too much for Penn State to handle right now. I'm going to give y'all credit, Michigan. The one thing I've noticed in your team this year that is different from last year, it looks like you've got elite speed. What got exposed when Michigan got curb stomped by Georgia in the playoff? The speed in the elite players. Michigan looked like a JV football team scrimmaging the varsity team. However, on the flip side, I'm starting to see that speed and that elite speed for Michigan this year. Not only do I like Michigan to win this game, I don't necessarily think it's going to be all too close. I got Michigan by 14 points. Moving along to our other 11 a.m. games, I don't see anybody talking about this, and I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but I do want to bring it up. Auburn and Ole Miss. Whoa, hold on. I know what you're sitting there saying, yo, Matt, why are you talking about this game? Auburn sucks. You even say they suck. Ole Miss should win this one easily, right? Yes, I agree with that 100%. But for some odd reason, Auburn normally has Ole Miss's number. I truly feel like this could be one of those sleeper and trap games for Ole Miss because they have everything to lose and Auburn has nothing to lose. This is going to be one of those 11 a.m. games that nobody's going to pay attention to. Not many people are going to watch outside the state of Alabama and Mississippi. I am going to pick Ole Miss to win, but I'm not picking them to cover. I think Ole Miss wins this game by 6 points, but you could see an upset. Going on down here to something weird. Who would have thought before the season that when these two teams were playing, Kansas would have been the team that's ranked and Oklahoma is the team that's unranked? Surprisingly enough, after Oklahoma gets absolutely curb stomped in back-to-back weeks, including a 49-0 embarrassing loss in a rivalry game, they're a 9-point favorite? What? You gotta be kidding me. A 9-point favorite? That makes zero sense. And I think OU fans would even say that's stupid. Kansas is a good football team. They're solid. I wouldn't say they're a top 15 or top 10 team, but they're solid. On paper, when you look at it athlete to athlete, Oklahoma should win this game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But you can't do that with this OU team. They're a complete crap show and mess. The thing about Kansas is although they do have a lot of 2- and 3-star recruits and some recruits that weren't even ranked, they get the most out of their players, and they're a sound group of guys. Let me put it this way, and I think this is a better perspective. Kansas feels like a football team. Oklahoma feels like a bunch of 4- and 5-star recruits that are out there for themselves. The bad part about this for Kansas is it looks like your starting quarterback Jalon Daniels more than likely will not play in this game, so you are at a disadvantage from that standpoint. For OU, though, their quarterback situation is still 2 times worse than Kansas' quarterback situation. Here's my biggest problem with Oklahoma right now. I don't know if they can score more than 10 points in a ball game. Let me clarify on that statement. That's if Dillon Gabriel is not playing. Will he play in this game? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Even if Gabriel does play, I'm still taking Kansas to theoretically pull off the upset because they are a 10-point underdog. Give me Kansas in this one. Also at 11 a.m., man, we're starting it off hot. You got so many good games on Saturday. We got Texas and Iowa State. Gonna keep this one short and simple. We got Quinn Ewers versus Iowa State, who is, not so good. I got Texas in this one. I'd be eating up all of that 16 points. I think it's going to be a blowout. Going on down here to our 2:30 games, we got Oklahoma State and TCU, undefeated Big 12 matchup. Maybe it's just me. Let me know your thoughts on this. I don't know how to feel about Oklahoma State. I know they played 5 games, but I still don't know what to think about them. Let me explain what I mean when I say that. TCU, we know what their identity is. They're going to score a bunch of points. Do they have the best defense in the world? No, but they have a really good offense and a really good quarterback in Max Duggan. What I'm struggling with here is Oklahoma State. I know they have a good quarterback in Spencer Sanders, but I just don't know how good their offense is and all because they haven't played any competition. Yeah, I get it. They beat Baylor, but Baylor's not even ranked anymore. Outside of that, they haven't played anybody. Here's what I do know. Both teams' defenses, not so good. You could easily see this be a 45-41 ball game. I'm just not sold on the fact that Oklahoma State's offense can keep up with TCU's. Maybe they can, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Since I don't know all too much about Oklahoma State, I'm going to roll with TCU. Another 2:30 game, another top 25 matchup. What do you know? We got NC State and Syracuse. I want to put this out there right now. I think NC State is one of the most overrated teams in the country, and they should not be ranked. Syracuse, on the other hand, I don't mind them being inside the top 20, but I still don't think they're no serious contender in the ACC. I'm going to roll with Syracuse in this one because I like their quarterback, Garrett Schrader. I don't think he's a Quinn Ewers type of special, but he's good enough to win you this game. Finally, though, the main reason you clicked onto this video, the main on-court, the whatever you want to call it, the biggest showdown, maybe one of the biggest games in regular season history for Tennessee. We got Alabama and Tennessee. Woo, man, oh man. If you're an Alabama fan or a Tennessee fan, I think we can all agree with this statement. It's going to be a good game. I don't think anybody from any fan base actually expects it to be a blowout. Whether Bryce Young plays, whether he doesn't play, doesn't matter. It will be a good game, and I can guarantee you that much. Whoa, wait a minute. Did somebody say Bryce Young? I think they did. Speaking of Bryce Young, that's what we got to talk about. This is a special video, and it's also the first time I've ever done this. I'm going to give you not one, but two predictions on this game. I think you all know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to give you a prediction if Bryce Young does play and if he doesn't play. I get it 100%. Some of y'all may not like that. But the bottom line is, it is a different game if Bryce plays than if he doesn't play. It's a different game, and for that reason, I'm going to give you two predictions, and I don't think most of you are going to mind. Prediction number one, if Bryce Young does play. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a fun fact for you. Tennessee's defense ranks 128th out of 131 teams in passing defense. Let me repeat that again, 128 out of 131. Why is that important? Because Alabama has the best quarterback and the best passer in the entire world. Let me clarify on that statement. When I say the entire world, I'm talking about the college football landscape. You want to know what makes Bryce Young such a special, such a rare, and an all-time legend at the college football level? He's never had a bad game. Think about that, Alabama fans and people that keep up with the sport. Bryce Young has never had a bad game. Alabama has had bad games, but Bryce hasn't. Every single time this year and last year where Alabama played bad, guess who saved the day and put on the cape and was the hero? Bryce Young. I brought that up to say this. History tends to repeat itself when Alabama, with Bryce Young at quarterback, plays a bad passing defense. We saw it all last year, and we're continuing to see it this year. If you don't have a good passing defense, Bryce Young will light you up. Speaking of last year, Tennessee's passing defense, which was better than their current passing defense this year, gave up nearly 400 passing yards to Bryce Young and 5 total touchdowns. That's interesting, considering the fact this defense is worse than last year's. So theoretically speaking, Bryce Young should throw for more than 400 yards this year if he does play. Now, yes, those are all if, ands, and buts. We don't know how the game's going to go. Bryce Young could go out there and throw 4 interceptions. If Bryce does play, I'm going to predict at minimum he's going to throw for 375 yards. That's at minimum. He could potentially get up into the 450s. I wish I could say I'm trying to overhype this and that's way too much, but it's honestly not. Here's another thing to pay attention to. I know a lot of you are sitting there saying, well, Matt, Alabama likes to run the ball. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's been going off. He had 200 yards against Arkansas. I wouldn't expect Bryce Young to account for all the yards. That is a fair point because Alabama does like to mix it up and they do want to run the ball. But, and I have a big but, we saw it last year against Georgia. Alabama does not mind throwing it every single play and just lighting you up. And when I say last year against Georgia, I'm talking about the SEC championship. If you want to stack the box, which I expect Tennessee to do because fun fact for you, they have the second best rushing defense in the SEC, Alabama will throw the ball every play. They're not going to force running it. You better believe that. Bill O'Brien, he is an idiot and he makes some of the worst play calls I've ever seen, but he's not that stupid. Or maybe he is. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. For the sake of this video, though, I'm going to give him credit. If they do stack the box, and by they I'm referring to Tennessee, Bryce Young will pass it every single play. And that's where for Tennessee you could start to see problems because if you load the box and Bryce Young exploits you, then you got to drop back and only put 6, 7 in the box, but then Alabama's going to run the ball, and they're good at running this year. Last year they wasn't so good at running, and that's not a knock on Brian Robinson. He was really good. It was a knock on the offensive line. I think this year's Alabama offensive line, 2 times better. I think the offensive line outside the Texas game, they've been doing a great job. I do want to give credit to the big boys. Nobody gives them credit, and it's a shame. The only time people talk about them is when they do bad. That's the offensive side of the ball, though. All in all, if you're confused by what I'm saying, I'll sum it up real short right here. I don't think Tennessee has a chance of stopping Bryce Young and Alabama's offense. On the flip side, when Tennessee and Hendon Hooker have the ball in offense, I don't think it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows like many Tennessee fans think it's going to be. Most of y'all know this if you've been watching the channel for a while. I've said it since week 1. I love Hendon Hooker. He's the most underrated quarterback in the country, and I had him as a dark horse Heisman candidate in the summer going into this season. I've been on the Hooker bandwagon. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch, and I got him number 1 in the Heisman race. Will he wind up winning the Heisman? Well, there's one thing in his way. That's Alabama. What is one of these signature things that all these Heisman quarterbacks have had? They beat Alabama and had their signature Heisman moment in that game. Cam Newton, Johnny Manziel, and Joe Burrow all had similar things and one thing in common. They beat Alabama, and that was their Heisman moment. It's rather simple. If you're in the Heisman race and you want to get that number 1 spot and win the trophy, you have to beat Alabama. You're not going to win the Heisman and lose to Alabama. It doesn't work like that. I got some good news for Tennessee fans and also some bad news. Let's start off with the good news first. The good news is I do expect Hendon Hooker to have a good game. He's a definition of a veteran. He's been playing college football for what feels like 5 years now. now. But here's the bad news for Tennessee, and it starts off with a fun fact. Texas A&M's quarterback, Haynes King, had 46 pass attempts. Out of those 46 pass attempts and dropbacks, Alabama's defense had 19 quarterback hurries. For those of y'all that don't know what a hurry means, it pretty much means they was in the quarterback's face. They didn't sack him, but they was given pressure. 19 out of 46 pass attempts, that is slightly under 50%. I expect that to be the same case and scenario against Tennessee. Do I believe Hendon Hooker's gonna make some big time and awesome throws? Yes, of course, he's a great player. But I also believe he's going to be pressured more than he ever has been this entire season and maybe his entire career. That Alabama front seven is no joke, and they are nothing to play against. And also got to throw this in there, you're not going to run the ball against Bama's front seven. You're just simply not. The best running back in the country, Bijan Robinson, only had 60 yards on 20 carries. I think Tennessee has a decent running game, but even a good running game, you're not going to run on Bama. So the only way to beat Alabama is going to be Hendon Hooker's going to have to go off and have one of the best games of his life. To go on top of that, Alabama's secondary has actually shocked me this year at how great they've played. I didn't think the secondary was going to be all too good this year. We got a bunch of young guys out there, but they're exceeding expectations. The one thing about Alabama ever since Nick Saban has got there is they're going to man you up, and you're going to have to make those contested and 50-50 ball catches. Ever since Saban got there in 2007, that's been his motto. He's installed it into all of his defensive backs. He's told his guys, hey, if you can't cover one-on-one, you're not going to play. They're going to man you up, and if you can't make those 50-50 catches, you don't have a chance. Whenever Johnny Manziel and Joe Burrow beat Alabama, yes, they are great quarterbacks, but who was making all these crazy catches? Those top wide receivers like a Jamar Chase or Mike Evans. Not only do you have to have a great quarterback to beat Alabama, you got to have some dudes at the wide receiver position like Texas A&M had last week. That guy Evan Stewart for Texas A&M, that 5-star wide receiver, he was making unreal catches and plays back to back. That's what Tennessee has to have. Not only do you got to give Hendon Hooker time and Hendon Hooker has to make a great throw, you got to have great catches. I can't emphasize this enough. You got to do that just to have a chance to win. And even if you do that, you got to stop Bryce Young. That's what makes this Alabama team, in my opinion, way better than last year's team. All in all, when it comes down to it, though, I got Alabama winning this game 38-27 if, and that's a if, Bryce Young plays. Now, if he doesn't play, here's prediction number 2. Oh, brother, how do I say this in the nicest way possible? Jalen Milroe is the worst quarterback I've ever seen play for Alabama since Nick Saban has gotten there. Yes, that is a harsh statement, but it's also a true statement. You know what they say, the truth hurts. Jalen Milroe is a humble, outstanding young man, but he's not a good quarterback at this given moment. And the problem with him is a problem that Nick Saban has never had, is he can actually go out there and lose you a game. Think about it when Saban first got there in 2007 all the way up in about 2012 and 13. What was his quarterbacks notorious for? Not losing the game. Remember Greg McElroy and A.J. McCarron? They were labeled as quote-unquote game managers. Back in 2008 all the way up into 2013, Nick Saban said, hey, we're going to give you about 4 or 5 deep ball passes. If you make them, cool. If you don't make them, whatever. Just don't lose us a game. Throw the ball out of bounds. Take a sack. Don't throw an interception, fumble, do any of that. And for the most part, that is how Alabama quarterbacks played. You got about 5 or 6 deep shot passes. If you hit them, that's awesome. If not, it's cool. Just hand the ball off to Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry. Also, Trent Richardson, and I'm not going to name off all the outstanding backs. You know how this went. Fast forward in time, though, to our current day in the past 6 or 7 years, Alabama's offense has changed entirely. You now have Alabama quarterbacks who are going out there and they're winning the games by themselves. Sometimes they win without any run support. Remember back in the day, if Mark Ingram or Trent Richardson didn't have 150 yards, Alabama was going to lose. But what makes Jalen Milroe so bad and so detrimental to this Alabama team is he can single-handedly lose a game by himself. And that is the scariest part about him. Here's another cold hard fact for you. 17 out of those 20 points A&M scored was off of turnovers by Milroe. If Milroe doesn't play in this game, Alabama wins by 30 points. You can't change my mind. And that was a home game. Think about if Jalen Milroe, a freshman quarterback, goes into Neyland Stadium, one of the most toxic environments in the entire country. Yes, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say at least he's going to have 2 turnovers. And somehow, some way, Alabama overcame 4 turnovers against Texas A&M, but that won't happen in Knoxville, Tennessee. Here's something that I am kind of a fan of. Alabama has a 5-star quarterback that goes by the name of Ty Simpson. He's a true freshman. I think he may be a better option than Jalen Milroe. Will he play if Milroe starts performing bad? I don't know, but it could happen. Bottom line is, let me get a move on with this. If Milroe does play, it doesn't change anything for Tennessee's offense, but it changes everything for Alabama's offense. If Jalen Milroe plays, I think he's going to have costly turnovers, and Alabama won't be able to overcome those. I got Tennessee winning this game 31-21. That's if Milroe plays. Like always, though, I am extremely curious. Let me know your thoughts on this game down below. Moving on to our night games, let's talk about them. At 6:30 p.m., we got maybe one that could be sneaky. We got Clemson and Florida State. And weirdly enough, Clemson is only a 3.5-point favorite. I get this game is on the road, but I think Clemson should easily be a touchdown favorite. Come on, man. I think they're going to win this game by double digits. DJ Ugabadoogie, he's been playing all right. Give me Clemson. At 6:30 p.m., we got Mississippi State and Kentucky. I'm going to keep this one short and simple. Kentucky's been up and down. Rough past couple of weeks, and Mississippi State, they are hot. And when I say they're hot, I think they are hot. I don't think Kentucky's offense can keep up with Mississippi State's offense. Give me Mississippi State in this one. And last but not least, USC versus Utah. Can y'all believe this? Utah, who has 2 losses, is a 3.5-point favorite at home? Apparently, everybody thinks that Utah is built to beat this USC team, and it's a terrible matchup. I do agree with that. After watching some of the film, I'm like, okay, Utah is a bad matchup for USC, but it feels like everybody's picking Utah to win this game. I kind of want to pick Utah, and I really wanted to, but I think Caleb Williams is due for an outstanding game. He hasn't had one of those in a while. And when I say an outstanding game, I'm talking about a game where everybody across the country is talking about it. I'm also extremely thankful, thank you Lord, this game is before 12 a.m. It kicks off at 7 p.m., so finally, once again, I can watch a USC game without being tired. I'm going to roll with the upset in this one, and it's weird to say that because USC's ranked higher. I got Caleb Williams pulling it out. I also believe you could see USC run up this score and potentially score 50-something points. That is it, though, for the Week 7 preview. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But